Hello, welcome back to your stable friend. Let's get right to it. WHIPS. We've talked about it before, and you know what? We will talk about it again. We will probably talk about it again and again and again because it's such an important subject, and no matter how much I personally seem to say about it, it's not enough. It's not enough for people when they have questions or there's a debate and I post WHIPS part 1 and part 2, there's still more. There's still more that needs to be addressed. And what happened last weekend with social media was, why does it matter what the object is? The horse doesn't know what it is. So if my horse is not afraid of the whip because it's never been whipped with a whip, then what's the big deal? Okay, that's number one that keeps reoccurring. Another one is I use my whip as a target. So it's not, I don't use it to whip the horse. I use it for a different use. That's number 2. Let's start with those two first. Number 1. Let's start with number 2 first. The whip is a target. You could literally use anything, and I mean anything else, as a target. First of all, you can make one of those targets that they use like at the wild, at the wild animal park or the sea animal park. You can actually make one of those targets very easily. I'm sure there's a dozen or more YouTube videos on how to make a target. You can use anything to be a target. Why do you have to use a whip? That's my question to you. You're asking me what's wrong with using a whip? Why can't I? I'm asking you, why can you not use something else? Anything else. There's one thing I'm asking you, or any whip person, anti-whip person is saying, I am simply asking that you use anything else. Then they say, well, I said something like, you can go to the 99-cent store or dollar store and find numerous items that you can use as a target. You can find a little flag. You can get a child's badminton racket. And someone said, well, I could beat my horse with a badminton racket. You can beat your horse with anything. That's the point. You can beat your horse with anything. So people will say, well, then I might as well use a whip. No. And that's what we're going to get to in a second. And if my horse is not afraid of the whip, this is one you have to go out with me on a little bit of an evolved limb for this one, okay? Please, try for me. Put on your evolvement hat and think about what I'm saying here. The whip holds thousands of years of terror, tragedy, tyranny, and torture in that tiny little thin stick. It is so powerful a symbol of terror, of pain, of coercion, of force, of negativity. Why can we not just decide together to eradicate something so ugly in a world that should be so beautiful? The world that you have with your horse, the bubble that your horse and you share. Not even the bubble, your equestrian family, the people that are around you. Why can't we all agree, let's get that whip out of here? Why should it be a symbol of equestrianism? You literally will look at equestrian jewelry and it's, the bit, or it's like the little cross between the whip and the hunting stick, or, it's always the horseshoe. It's always something that's not horse friendly in that horse jewelry. Why can we not get these symbols that symbolize equestrian out? Very much like, say, certain flags that we no longer fly, or certain symbols that we don't use anymore that were associated with very dark pages of history. There are certain things that we just finally all recognize and say, hey, there's a lot of pain and suffering associated with this inanimate article. Let's just do away with it. Why bother going into the tack store and buying a whip, which is, I'm sure, Probably the least expensive one you're going to find is 20 bucks when you can go into the dollar store and literally buy anything there to use as a target. Why not use anything but the whip? Anything will work as a target. Anything. Using your whip as a target is odd to me. Why? Why that? Why, when you can use anything else, do you insist on using a whip? I think it's strange. I think it's very strange. If you, as a human, are aware of the history of the whip, why the whip was invented in the first place, which was to cause pain and to cause fear, to control people. It was used basically on all of the different factions that used to be slaves have been also at one with the whip. That is how you were controlled as a human by more powerful humans who thought they were more powerful because they had that whip that they could use on you. It's an article of submission. It's used to make someone submit to your will. Why do we want that in our horse world? Why do we want something so hideous around something that is so beautiful? Why do we want something so negative around something that is so positive? Why do we want something that represents control to where we all know that we should be striving not to control our horses, but to communicate with them? Why can't we all just agree that it is time to get rid of the whip? It is time to replace it with a whole brand new era of communication. And for communication, you would never need to use a whip if you were going to communicate something to someone. You would figure out a way to express yourself without having to use something like a whip. It will make us all better equestrians, I promise you that. It will make us all feel better about ourselves, I promise you that. You might not think so, but you will. You know, the whip was used by the lion tamer, and if you think about the lion tamer's outfit, it was riding joggers, a pair of tall riding boots, and the whip. That the lion tamer dressed much like the equestrian. But here's the difference. The lion tamer was actually trying to stave off an animal that is a predator that would happily eat the lion tamer. So maybe they did need some sort of a weapon. You know, I wish that there hadn't been any interaction that way at all. But I understand if something could eat you, maybe you need something like that. Your horse is basically a highly intelligent bunny rabbit. It is an animal of prey. It's a flight and fright animal. You don't need to wield a whip at it. If you really are afraid of your horse and need it to go away from you, there's about 10 other things that you can do. Raise your arms, make yourself big, maybe clap your hands, maybe, do one of those. You don't need a whip. You don't need a whip. Just like you said, but my horse doesn't know what the whip is because it's never been beaten with one. I call BS on you if you're telling me that your horse knows to move away from it. If your horse knows to move away from it or not to come to you when you have it, then your horse knows exactly what it is. Exactly what it is. I urge you to think about this. I urge you to think long and hard about your relationship with the whip and how you could replace it with either A, something else, anything else, or nothing else. And start to learn a true and deep communication with your horse that is free of any types of articles or gadgets or what you guys love to call tools. See if you can have a relationship that doesn't use tools. I mean, do you use tools with your other friends? Do you use tools with your cat? I mean, why do you need a tool? Are you a building contractor? Are you in your horse going to build things? I mean, you don't need any tools. You need you, and you are enough. Check your self-worth. Make sure that you think and know that you're enough. Think about why you're so attached to the whip, and think about what you can do to start to move away from it. Word on the street is that the racetracks are talking about banning whips. If and when that happens, I think that's going to send a big wave through the rest of the equestrian community. So you might want to be ready for that to happen. and trust me, it will be the best thing that you have ever done. Thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, comment, do all the YouTube stuff, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.